Welcome in, everybody, to episode number 5 of Ryan and Megan, the podcast. We've been traveling since 2020 as physical therapists, and what makes us a little bit unique is that now we are traveling with our family of 2 little tiny girls. Today, we're going to be talking about 10 red flags to watch out for with recruiters. Let's hop on in.
So before we hop into our main content, if you could, please go over to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening to our podcast, and leave us a 5-star review. We would greatly appreciate that. And if you're watching us here on YouTube, then go ahead and hit that like button. Consider subscribing to our channel so you don't miss another episode.
Let's get into the content. We're reviewing 10 red flags to look for with recruiters. But first, we want to kind of talk about why it is important to have a good recruiter and why you want to make sure you know these red flags to watch out for so you don't end up with a bad one.
Yeah. And I think the big thing is a travel recruiter is important because this is the person helping you find travel jobs. Mm-hmm. It's their main job. If they don't find you jobs, you don't have a job. So it's really important to have someone that you trust and that's going to do a good job, because just like in any industry, just like there's bad physical therapists and there's good physical therapists, there are bad recruiters and good recruiters. And so you definitely want to get a good recruiter so your travel experience can be the best that it can possibly be.
Yeah. And I wouldn't say that there's like necessarily malicious recruiters that are out there to get you. It's just like a level of experience that they have in the industry, you know? So you want to look for ones, we'll get into it, that have some good experience. But another important aspect of your recruiter is that they're the person who's kind of going to be advocating with you throughout the process and going along for the ride with you. So you want somebody who is going to do that and come alongside you and take you through those steps.
Because they are your support person, really. Mm-hmm. Once you get a good recruiter, they're helping you find the jobs. They're the main contact for you in this travel world that's going to be kind of taking you through that process. Mm-hmm. And so they're supporting you during the process of finding the job, after you find the job, during the process of interviewing, the contract negotiations, mm-hmm. any question you might have for the travel company, they're your contact person. And so you want that support person to be a good recruiter.
You want somebody who can make sure they find a cool place for you if that's really your top priority, or find a really great job that is not going to be a horrible experience. So that's why we're covering this topic today.
What are some red flags that we look for? And if we see those red flags, that puts us on high alert to avoid that recruiter.
Mm-hmm. We've got these numbered out, not in any specific order of importance, but just to kind of give you a reference of our top 10.
Yeah, we came up with 10 of them.
So for the first one, you want to avoid a database recruiter. And what this means is usually if you're a new traveler, you're just kind of trying to feel out the industry, you pop onto one of the recruiting companies' websites and you put your name in and you say, hey, I'm interested. And then a recruiter comes back to you and starts the process.
Essentially, you get assigned a recruiter from that recruiting company.
Yeah. So you fill out that form, you get assigned what we're calling a database recruiter. And we just like to say avoid this process as your main initiation with a recruiter, because you just are taking a shot in the dark. You have no idea who you're getting.
It's a big gamble. It's basically kind of a lottery system, because honestly, you might put your email into the travel company's website and you might get a good recruiter, someone who's like really great, or maybe they're new and upcoming and they're willing to be a workhorse for you and you really gel with them. But then there's also the other side of the coin where you might get someone who's new and inexperienced, and they might just, not that they're malicious like you said, but they just might not be a good recruiter yet. Or you might just get a bad recruiter because they're trying to fill up their caseload. Because a majority of the time, these travel companies aren't going to assign you to the recruiter that has a full traveler caseload. They're going to assign you to that new person who's trying to get more leads and fill more jobs and trying to get them up to speed. So we would say avoid the database recruiter the best you can and go get recommended recruiters. So a recommended recruiter would be talk to your travel friends who are already traveling. If you don't have travel friends, then talk to someone on the internet who is traveling like us and ask, what recruiters do you work with? I want to know the name of the specific recruiter that you work with if you've had a good experience with them. That's the key. Because if you ask us for recruiters, we're not going to give you a recruiter that we've had a bad experience with. That would be silly. We're going to give you the recruiters that we're like, this person's awesome. You want to be with this person. And so go get you a recommended recruiter. Try to avoid those databases because not much of a red flag, but it can be a red flag. And so you don't want to take that risk because it might make your first assignment really bad.
Yeah. And that's the time when you want it to be really good because there's a lot of good things about travel. And if you're already, iffy about it, questioning it, and then you jump in, you decide to take the leap and your first experience is horrible, that would just be such a shame.
Yeah, it'd be a big bummer. And it's possible. That does happen. And so you want to try to do as much as you can to have that good first experience. The second red flag would be poor communicator. So the travel recruiter is just really bad at communication. They don't get back to you in a timely manner. They don't convey details to you, important details that you need, like with your contract, with the job search, if you're actively searching for a travel job. Poor communication is really a big red flag, I think, for us, maybe one of our top ones, because if we can't communicate to our recruiter our desires, our needs, and then have them reciprocate it back, it's just not going to work out and we're going to cut you loose really fast.
Yeah, we would say typically quick communication in our book means like getting back to you within one business day is typical of recruiters, I would say. Just because of the nature of the job, getting you submitted to jobs and getting details to you about a job requires being very, very timely and getting it done quickly because those jobs can go fast.
It's a game of speed, really. I mean, because if you're trying to apply for a competitive job, you want your resume in there first, and you want your recruiter relaying back to you, like, what's going on? Can we get an interview? Or how many other people have applied?
Submitted. Yeah.
So there has to be good communication. And, respectfully, if your recruiter can't get back to you in one business day, like our recruiters, they will let us know. They'll be like, hey, I'm going to be out for a long weekend. Friday, I'll get back on next Tuesday. But they've kind of notified us and say, if you need anything, here's my supervisor. That's like really good communication that we should have in a lot of industries, but what you definitely want with your travel recruiter. I think the other thing would be on the poor communicator part is if the recruiter is unwilling to talk to their supervisor if a need arises. Not like disciplinary, like you need to go over their head, but more of what we think of is, say you're a team traveling and there's one job in a good location, but it kind of seems like, well, maybe they need two physical therapists. This is from personal experience. A lot of times your recruiter can't just open that up, but they have to go to their supervisor. So if your recruiter is just kind of saying, no, that's impossible, and just kind of shutting you down, you want someone who's going to work for you. And so if they're willing to be like, yeah, I'll go talk to my supervisor, see if we can ask the facility. The worst case scenario is they say no to us. That is a recruiter you want. And if they're like not willing to take those steps, then that's a red flag.
The third red flag, if they do not consider your priorities as a traveler. So before in other episodes and videos, we've talked about the travel triangle and kind of setting your priorities, whether you want to be in a specific location, a specific setting, and what kind of pay you want. And we've talked about staying flexible. As a traveler, you're not going to get everything 100% what you want all the time. Nobody does. That's kind of unrealistic. We talked about, go ahead and set the priorities because it gives the recruiters a good framework to work with on what type of job to show you. And if they have that framework and they're just totally disregarding it, that's kind of a red flag for us. Just because what is the point in presenting us with a job that we are not likely to take? And it just seems like makes it seem like they don't care. They don't have your priorities, in mind.
Right. And that's not to say that your travel recruiter can't offer you a job that maybe isn't on your radar, but they're going to communicate well to you and present it to you in a way like, hey, I know we're working on trying to find something like this, but here's a home health job over here. the pay looks pretty good. It's not in the desired location, but they have these things, they communicate that well to you. What we're talking about is they hand you 4 jobs and you're like, this isn't the setting I want to work in. This pay isn't what I want. And it's nowhere fun to be, or, it's just kind of like really off the wall charts, and they don't deliver it well. Then that would be kind of a red flag to us that, you're just shoving jobs to me and you're not really considering what my priorities are when it comes to pay, setting, and location.
A really great recruiter will keep those in mind and have you in mind when they're looking at other jobs and kind of match you to the things that will be compatible, instead of just being like a third party person there who can see all of the open jobs and then be the window into those open jobs for you. Instead of just being that window, they're going to be like, oh, no. They only need to see this one, and this one, and they're going to love one of them.
Right. Our next one, number 4, don't want you to work with other recruiters or travel companies. So your travel recruiter is very against you working with other travel companies. This is a big red flag. In this industry, in the travel world, you need to be working with 2 to 3 travel recruiters from different travel companies. And that is normal. It's just how you're able to get a good lay of the land of job opportunities. Because not every travel recruiter, every travel company is going to have all the travel jobs. So you want to be able to see a lot of options out there. And this is very normal. A good recruiter knows this. A good recruiter might even ask you, hey, are you working with other people? How many other people are you working with? Don't get freaked out about this. Just be honest with them, right? You're asking them to be honest with you. So you just tell them, yep, I'm working with 2 other recruiters, and then this is what they're doing. And then really communicating well on that job search, saying like, my recruiter A is looking in this state, but I would really like you to look in this state if you could. And they're respectful about that. That's a sign of a good recruiter. When they're not respectful of that and they're kind of giving you maybe even just a little passive aggressive hard time with it, like, oh, I wish you'd only work with me. Really, this disrupts our travel company. Should only be working with one company. That's a red flag to us.
And we did say, before, sometimes we're working with one recruiter, you really jive well, and that's totally fine. But being limited because some recruiter is uncomfortable with it is not really
it's a red
what
flag
you're looking for. All right. The next red flag is a recruiter who is not transparent. And when we say transparent, we mean like with the job details. So if they're showing you a job and they really want you to interview and they think it would be a good match, they should have all the details you need to know about that job to make you excited about it too. Sometimes, there's certain things that you work out in a contract after you've interviewed and they make sure that it's, all on paper and it's there and figured out. But for the most part, you should generally know what you're walking into before you interview for a job. So if they're kind of holding that information captive and kind of like bait and switching you or,
right. If they're not
like that.
If they're not being transparent about the job up front especially before you sign on that contract.
Oh yeah, that would be
definitely a huge red flag. If you don't know your weekly take home pay, if you don't know how many hours you're going to be working, what's your guarantee, do not sign that contract. That's not how this should work. You should know all those details. And really, I think most recruiters are good with this. The only time I feel like this happens is when you have a travel company that's wanting you to be exclusive with them. They'll try to kind of hire you on. Sometimes how they do that is like they almost want you to sign on to them before even you're signing on to a contract or a job. And so just be wary of that. If you see that, that's a red flag. You should know all those details before maybe even the interview. Because if you want to interview for a place, you want to know what you're interviewing for and what's the job offer. Otherwise, don't waste your time.
Yeah. And that kind of ties into our next red flag, and that would be a pushy recruiter. So if it's somebody who's kind of like sales pitching you and really trying to reel you into something that you're uncomfortable with and not providing all the details that you need, or maybe, in travel, there is a time crunch usually with getting the contract, but trying to
This is like pushy in a way where you say no to an assignment. you're like, nah, I don't want to be in the middle of Iowa in the winter. No, thank you. Let's see something else. You respectfully tell your recruiter that. And then they keep kind of pushing it like, no, this Iowa job, or, wherever it is. That would be like a red flag to us of
nothing against Iowa.
Yeah, but yeah. We've never taken a contract there, so we don't know. But
yeah.
So number 7, if your recruiter applies you for a job without your approval, this is a big red flag.
It's a big no-no.
Yeah, big no-no. A recruiter should not be applying you for jobs that you don't know about and that you haven't given approval for. This is where the communication becomes key when you're working with multiple recruiters. You don't want your recruiter A to apply you to a job that recruiter B has already applied you to. And so you want to be very careful on do not apply me until I say okay, so you can manage that. And then I've also heard, we've never had this happen to us, but sometimes recruiters they have to get their numbers up of how many jobs they're submitting their people to. And so sometimes a shady recruiter will be kind of falsely applying people. If you ever find out your recruiter's doing that, applying you to jobs that they know you're not going to take, but just to boost their numbers, that's a huge red flag.
Number 8, a recruiter who is not willing to provide contract details in writing. Any contract really in life that you sign, you want to know all the details and have it in writing. So this is just a pretty basic standard. When you go to sign a contract, you want all those details about the job written down and documented somewhere.
Even if it's like your recruiter promising you something from the travel company, so maybe like a travel stipend, they're saying like, we'll give you a travel reimbursement. This would be like the reimbursement of your travel to a contract, something like that. And they're like, yeah, we're going to give you $500. You want that in writing, whether that's like an email sent to you. So then when it comes around for them to pay, you can be like, nope, you said $500, not $20. And so even little perks like that, you want it all in writing. So if the recruiter is saying, no, we're not going to give you that in writing, that seems a little shady. All right, number 9.
Not being proactive in the job search. This is a big one because they are the person who gets you submitted to those jobs that you're really interested in. And like we've said, it's time sensitive. So you really want somebody who is going to be searching the market, especially when you feel like you're on a time crunch to find your next job and looking for those ones that you're likely to take, those good ones. And so they should be messaging you often when you're kind of in that phase of looking for a new job. And you might even want somebody who is willing to cold call places or think outside of the box a little bit.
Do you think this is the most common red flag probably with recruiters? Is sometimes you get recruiters that are too relaxed. They're not proactive enough in like the job search specifically. Because I think it's an easy red flag for recruiters to fall into without them knowing. And so they kind of feel they're not meaning to do this maybe, but they fall into it. And that might be, I think, a red flag for us to where they're not actively pursuing something for you, which makes you feel as a client, as a traveler, they're not prioritizing you. And that's the whole point you have a travel recruiter, is for them to find you jobs. So if they're being lackadaisical on that,
ooh, good word.
then what's the point?
It's not a good feeling to tell a recruiter, hey, we're looking for a job. I need something in this area with these specifics, and then just have radio silence. Even if they don't have anything currently to present to you to interview for, you kind of want to hear from them that, hey, I'm still looking. I haven't forgotten about you. There's nothing in this area. And that's good information for you to know, because it might make you change your plan.
It might mean that you need to be a little bit more flexible, but you won't know that if you just don't hear from them.
Right.
And it makes you feel good that they let you know they're actively searching for you.
Yeah.
And then number 10, our last red flag, is a recruiter who is unwilling to educate you. So this is education through the whole process, the whole travel process. So from the very beginning of, okay, let's get you signed up. Let's get you some licenses. We're looking for jobs. They're educating you. How does the job market look right now? What maybe a little bit of some tax home education. If they're not sure on everything, then maybe they're giving you good resources from their travel company, because most travel companies will have good traveler resources. And then once you get that interview, they're educating you on how this interview is going to work. What's the process after the interview when you get the job? What's the process of contract negotiation? I mean, they should take you step by step through there. And this is another area where they should be proactive in their education. If you have to ask all the questions all the time to like spur them up to educate you, then that's not necessarily a good recruiter. And so you want that recruiter who's going to really walk you through the process proactively, and that'll make your experience way better.
Especially at first. And really, it just makes the experience smoother for you and also for them getting you into the job. Because when you're first starting, you might not know what to expect, all the things that you have to do, what emails to look out for. So it's really helpful to have somebody who takes you along on that process.
I think travel companies have actually gotten better at this, because at first, when we had to do like all the credentialing stuff, it was a little bit more like your travel recruiter would tell you, hey, you know, you need to get a physical, you need to do these tests. And it was kind of on you to do all of it. But now we're seeing more travel companies have credentialing departments. Your travel recruiter isn't necessarily taking you through that. That's not their area of expertise, but they have a credentialing expert that's going to email you and answer all your questions about, you know, the stuff with getting your TB test, making sure you have your flu shot up to date, that type of stuff. And they're walking you through that. So it's kind of nice that these travel companies are implementing some of these helpful areas.
Yeah, it would probably be good to talk about at some point, like what that process looks like step by step, you know, and how to complete it, and what,
like how to complete essentially getting a job,
right,
a contract assignment done. Because there is a lot of steps, probably a lot more than we think about, because we've done it so many times. But I think that would be helpful. If you think it would be helpful, you know, leave us a comment. And if you think anything else that an episode would be on, you know, leave us a comment. We read all those, and we definitely take those into consideration.
So those are our top 10, I guess, our main 10 red flags to watch out for with recruiters. And then we also just kind of wanted to review a little bit of what makes a good recruiter. So obviously, watching out for those 10 flags that will help lead you in the right direction of finding a good recruiter. But in general, we would say that a recruiter with at least 2 years of experience is most likely going to be a good recruiter to go with, because they have been in the industry, they know what to expect, they have some practice and experience, and also they might have a caseload of travelers who are already out there, so they may be able to find you jobs that they know a little bit more information about.
Yeah, I think 2+ years is ideal. You're going to have some recruiters out there. We have recruiters that 5+ years or more. Experience is good for everyone. So when you have more experience in the industry, they know how it operates. They've worked with certain facilities who bring a lot of travelers in, so they kind of have an inside on that job for you. And they've built up their caseload, so there's a little less stress on them. It's really good to find a recruiter with good experience. Now, that being said, I think a caveat that we could add is if maybe it's a newer traveler, but maybe they were a former actual traveler.
You mean a newer recruiter?
Yeah, they're a newer recruiter, but before they became a recruiter, they were a traveler. We see that a lot. So a few of our recruiters have been travel therapists. And then I'm sure over on the nursing side, I'm sure there's been tons of travel nurses that are recruiters now. That travel experience they got as a travel therapist, that translates over big time. I think even better sometimes as a recruiter.
Gives them a good perspective of, you know, where you're coming from as a traveler, and kind of helps them know what you're probably looking for in a recruiter.
So if you see that, kind of add that to their experience as a little caveat.
And then the other thing we look for is a recruiter who thinks outside the box. So we've already kind of talked about this a little bit, but you want a recruiter who is going to be able to think of new options for you if you're trying to find two together or a specific place, and be willing to ask about it. Somebody who isn't just looking at a generic list of jobs that are open and says, oh, sorry, it's not on the list, and that's all I have to say about it.
Yes, I think that's my biggest pet peeve. If you have a recruiter that just essentially sends you the hot jobs list, or the whole list that they see of jobs, and then doesn't do anything after it. It's like, okay, well, I could have looked at the list.
Right.
You know, you want a recruiter that's proactively trying to find you those jobs, or they're looking at the list and bringing it to you.
And drawing from the experience that they have and knowledge about, okay, this clinic usually does have 2 things open and there's only 1 open right now. Let me see what's going on. Just taking those individual unique experiences and being willing to make things work.
And we've already mentioned this before, but I think this falls into a recruiter who thinks outside the box. Maybe they know you're looking for a team job, but they're willing to say, hey, there's one job in this area that I know you want to be. Let's just call up that facility and say, hey, I have 2 physical therapists, or I have a physical therapist and occupational therapist. Would you want to open up another travel job? Would that help you guys? They're willing to do that for you and really create jobs for you is huge. And then the next thing I would say is that they pitch you jobs that make sense. And this kind of falls back on what we were also talking about. But when they offer a job up to you, it makes sense, because it's like, if you want the home health setting and all they show you is outpatient and you're like, that's like the one setting I don't want to go do, then that's annoying, really. But if they are giving you jobs that are falling into your priorities, and maybe they're delivering it in a way that's like, hey, I found you a home health job in the area that you want. The pay maybe isn't as well, but they're delivering it in a way that's saying, hey, this is the best I'm doing, and I hope you see that I'm working for you hard. And then that's might be where you as a traveler have to be a little flexible.
Even pitching jobs that maybe were totally off your radar as far as specific location or something, but they're like, hey, I think this would really work for you because it's in this really cool place at this great time of year, and look, the pay is great. I know it's not like your first setting that you chose, but I thought maybe you would want to take a look at this one.
Right.
That means a lot to us too, just because it means that they're looking at your specific situation and caring about what you have set as a priority and care about.
One of my favorite things is when our recruiters will come up to us and they'll be like, hey, I know this isn't what you're thinking, but there is a job here, and I've had recruiters, multiple travelers in the past go to this job, and they all have a great time there.
Yeah,
and
that's
so
great.
They're thinking about you, and they're saying, hey, I think this would be a really good fit with you. And my past travelers who I work with have had great experiences there. And this can also be for you new grads out there. Sometimes a recruiter will know certain places that really take care of their new grads. And so they're like waiting for those jobs to kind of open up, or they're really checking in on those to see, are they going to have a job availability here soon? And so that's really great. That's the type of recruiter you want.
You also want a recruiter that is going to take you through the whole process, guide you through it step by step. That makes a good recruiter. And then also an excellent communicator, which we touched on as well.
Oh yeah, we're big on the excellent communication.
Also, another one would be a good networker. This makes an excellent recruiter in our minds. And we've touched on it throughout this whole episode, but it's somebody who has experience with travelers, but also with the locations that they're sending travelers to, has intel basically on, how the facility is, what the facility needs, when a traveler is leaving the facility, and they can place you in that position that is now open.
Yes.
Somebody who has relationships with people at other locations in the country and says, hey, I'm willing to talk to them and see if we can make something work out. So somebody who's a good networker in that sense.
It's not always possible, but some of our recruiters have certain facilities where they know the therapy manager there. They've sent so many good travelers to them that now that therapy manager, when they need travelers, they don't just list the job in the big system that all the travel companies can see available. They talk to our recruiter and they say, hey, we're going to need a traveler coming up this summer. We really would like to work with your travel company again. If you have any travelers that you'd like to send our way, let us know. That's like awesome. That is ideal, I would say.
It's ideal.
Doesn't always happen, right? There's certain hospitals that are just so big, they're just going to list their jobs in a third-party system and then all the travel companies can get a bite of it. But when you have direct clients, it's really nice.
If we're saying all of these things and you're like, man, I really want to get into the travel world, but I need some recommended recruiters and I don't know anybody, you can totally hit us up. We would love to share our recommendations with you. You can email us at ryanandmeganorear@gmail.com to get our recommended recruiters.
We also have a form, which I'll have down in the description of this video or the podcast episode, that'll say like recruiter recommendations and have a link. Just go ahead and click that link. That'll take you to a form on our website. That form just gives us a little bit of information about you so we can pair you up with one of our recruiters that we personally work with that fits best with what you're looking for. Fill that out and then we'll be getting back to you. We'll be in touch and we'll get you connected with some of our recruiters.
That is our therapy side of things. What is our personal side of things?
So what we've been up to, I returned back to work this Tuesday. So I have 3 days back at work after taking time off to have our little one, Lainey. Mm-hmm. And honestly, it went really well. It's always weird when you like hop back into work, but I was hopping back into a job I already knew. It was pretty seamless. I actually really love working for this home health company in our tax home. The documentation system's easy. I'm pretty efficient with it. I like doing home health. That's one of my preferred settings. It was actually really easy to hop back in, but you never know. I was a little nervous after having so much time off work. You get into that routine, but the routine came back well.
It's like riding a bike.
It really is. It really is. And so just knocked a little bit of rust off that first day and have been cruising ever since.
And while he went to work, I've been home with 2 babies. And I was very nervous about that.
I think we were more nervous about Megan staying home with 2 of our little girls who are under 2.
Yes. Yeah, it ended up being a lot better than I expected. And we're just going to keep chugging along and figure it out. But I did have something interesting happen today while I was home with the girls. We had a bush in our front yard that has been infested with some sort of stinging insect. And Ryan has gotten stung on the face, and I've gotten stung on the hand.
I got stung in my face, people. My face.
When we first noticed these little things, we thought, well, it's just like a honeybee, and they're not aggressive. But then we both got stung, and we were like, well, they look small like sweat bees, but they were yellow jackets.
Yeah, they were highly aggressive.
Very aggressive.
They were building a nest, so they were, in this nest is like right where our front porch is. So like we couldn't even enter our front door because we would get attacked by these yellow jackets.
Yeah, the more we were like observing them and then learning about them, we were like, oh man, these things are bad. So we called our pest service and they came out today and exterminated them or got rid of their nest or whatever.
Yeah, we should.
And he like suited up.
Yeah, we should post the picture on our Instagram of like the guy suited up.
Their like little hole that they were nesting in was as big as a cantaloupe, which he was like, actually, that's kind of small. And I was like, I don't know, cantaloupe seems kind of large.
Yeah, it was like a comb that they were making. Didn't know yellow jackets made combs, but it was like a cantaloupe size. That seems huge to me.
Did you see it outside when you came home?
Yeah, I did see a little bit, but it's kind of all broken up in part. But it's big.
Yeah, those are certain parts of home ownership that you don't necessarily think about or plan on when you buy a house.
You don't plan on yellow jackets. I've had to enter in, all of our guests have had to enter in through our back door because of these yellow jackets.
It seems like we have like some sort of secret going on, but it's just avoiding getting stung. That's all it is.
You know what? Early on when there was a nest there was a little part in the back of my mind that I was like, maybe I should just spray it with the water hose. But then I thought about all those family movies where like that's what the dad does, and then he's running across the yard while all the kids are looking out the front window. That would have been me. But that did cross my mind.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know if that's a dad thing or a home ownership thing.
Yeah.
So the next thing we'll do, our favorite segment, what's been good, what's been poopy. But before we hop into that, really consider going over to our website, ryanandmeganorear.com. That's where we have all of our articles on travel therapy. We have our video, we have our podcast episodes, a lot of really great content there. And that's kind of our central hub that it all joins together. So go ahead and check that out. Again, ryanandmeganorear.com.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Ryan, what's been good?
So what's been good is it is Thursday night. Football is back.
Football.
Which means fantasy football is back. I've been playing in a fantasy football league with my college buddies for Well, close to about 10 years now.
Oh my
And
gosh.
every year I
You're
lose.
old.
Yeah, I am old. Every year I lose. I'm not very good at it, or maybe they're really good. I can't tell. But we had our draft this week. Football's coming back, so fantasy points do count, and fantasy football just makes watching
It
football
just
a lot of fun.
spices it up, you know.
Yeah, so that's been really good. I enjoy having football. Fall's coming in, so
Yes. What's poopy?
I think what's been poopy is also that football's back on TV in a weird way, because with these streaming services, you never know what channel a football game's going to be on.
Yeah.
Like-
you can't just go turn on the TV anymore and flip the 4 channels and find what you need.
No, it's like Thursday night, it's on Amazon Prime. On Sunday, it might be on your Hulu, or it might, or they might be playing a London game and it's only on Apple TV.
And I don't know about y'all, but we are not into the subscribing to every single thing.
No.
We want to keep our monthly stuff low.
Keep our expenses low, but you
Yeah.
have to be subscribed to everything to see some
You have
football
to be
games around
rich
here.
to watch football.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to buy NFL ticket. And then what's crazy is sometimes you'll buy those big packages that have like, okay, I'm just going to get every NFL game. I can watch as much football as I want. And then they like black out your area for like the
Yeah.
local team that you
What?
want to watch. So that's kind of poopy. So
That is poopy.
poopy NFL.
Yeah. Poopy.
So football's great and
sports
poopy at the
streaming.
same time. All right, Megan, what has been poopy?
Oh, I
Well,
wasn't prepared for
it.
that
I
one.
want to end on a high note.
No sleep is still kind of a thing, but it's really not
Getting
that bad.
better.
It's a new normal. Getting better. Yeah.
Okay, then what's been good?
What's been good is the fall weather's really come in.
Hmm.
It's coming strong the past couple days, and I think it's the best season that's out there, especially here in the Midwest. Summertime, did I talk about this last week?
I don't know. We talk about weather a lot. We're going to have our
Yeah.
own weather channel here
We
soon.
are. It's just so easy to mention. I know we talked about the heat wave one week, but summer's just not it here in the middle of Missouri.
Hey, we're all about living a rich life. I think a component of that is the weather you live in. When you have nice weather, ooh, man, life is feeling good. You're like, I am weather rich here.
Breezes have started coming in, like the humidity is going down. That means the mosquitoes are going to go away eventually,
Oh,
and you can enjoy being outside.
that could be your poopy. Mosquitoes
Mosquitoes.
are always poopy.
Yeah, that'll be it. Man, anytime I want to go outside and enjoy our backyard or our deck that we're like trying to create a nice space to hang out in, I can't because those dang insects are there.
Yeah. All righty. Well, thank you for watching our episode 5 here of the Ryan and Megan podcast. As always, hit that like button. Consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. Leave us a review on wherever you're listening to this podcast. And thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, see ya.